All right. Good night. Oh, good evening. You said that at the end of the show. I'm ready to
Hello,
get out of
everyone.
this. And good night.
Yeah. Shortest podcast ever.
Yeah. But you know what? What we're really here to do is to give you the hi hat. I'm Jeff Harris, and with me, as always, is lifelong buddy Greg Walker, the 14th. And in our ear, as always, is producer extraordinaire Hunter Harris. Thanks for being here with us, Hunter said that he's very humbled just to be a part of this. So that was very nice of him to say that. That was a writer's embellishment. But anyway, I digress. How's your week been, buddy?
It has been work. Work. Finally got some time off. The missus and I were going to Chicago on Thursday for a weekend trip.
Outstanding. That's a family trip, right?
The two of us.
Somewhat.
Yes. Yeah.
But doesn't she have family up there? I think you were saying.
No, it was just somewhere she went about 10, 12 years ago, and she liked it so much she wanted to go back. So she's going back. And I've never been. So I'm really interested to see what's going on. And probably take in a Cubs game and go by the Fields Museum and eat our weight in Chicago-style pizza of some sort.
Oh, yeah. Chicago's a neat little place. I've been there a couple of times, actually. And it's always been for business, and it's always been kind of a layover. So I've never really seen anything but like the downtown touristy stuff, like Sears Tower, and gone to like a couple of clubs or something like that. But I mean, it's a club scene. I remember the night we left out of Chicago, we had like a real early flight, so we had to leave the hotel at like 5:30 in the morning, something like that. And we're taking the subway, all through the city, and in Chicago it's above ground, so you see everything going on. And bars were just letting out. People were still hanging out and you know the lots of bars, and for a lot of people, that might seem like a big of a deal, but in North Carolina, I mean, the bars close at 2 a.m. I mean, they're running you out the door at 2 a.m. So it was weird to see people like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if you could stay till. Well, maybe it's probably not cool, but
It just
anyway,
depends on
I
what time of
digress.
night you're having.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have to drive, it would be a great to stay out to 5 a.m. I couldn't do that anymore, dude. Oh, those days for me are long over.
I could barely do it in my pool, so I was I, I was
That's
trained
what
like
she
two
said.
o'clock. I was ready to wind down.
Hmm. Yeah, once I do pretty good for anything up until about midnight, and there's this window somewhere in between like 12:30 to 1 where I'm just that's it. I mean, I'm out. I mean, no matter what I'm doing, I just drop it and I go. That's about as much as I can give you these days. But
Yep. And then you get in your car and you drive all the way back from Myrtle Beach to Raleigh.
yeah, there you go. That's the way you do it. When
That's
you're done with it, you just get up and go.
yes, that's what
It's
you
been
did.
hot. Yeah.
You just got. I gotta go. And I'm
Hmm.
like, where are you going? I was. I gotta go home.
Hmm.
I said, dude.
Yeah, I gotta sleep in a bed.
And the good friend I am, I didn't really try to stop you. I was just like, okay.
Mhm. But I remember the next day by the time y'all got home from the beach, I'd already had like a half a day. I've been relaxed and slept in my own bed instead of like on the floor of a hotel room. So I don't regret the decision.
Oh my
I
god!
drove pretty fast. Yeah, those were the
Wait,
days.
what'd you make it back in like
We'll
an hour and a
elaborate on
half or
that another
something?
time.
You made it
No,
back
it
from
was
Myrtle
about
Beach.
2 hours for that. Myrtle Beach to Raleigh in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yep, that was pretty good. Yep,
Oh
but you can do that when there's no other cars on the road. Oh man, well let's get on
yeah.
topic here. We're gonna do a little bit of a sports show here, and let's start off talking about a couple of weird things in sports news. It's always going to be nice for conversation. Talking about Pat Fitzgerald and the Bob Huggins issues, and then we're going to do kind of like a brief talk about Major League Baseball now that we're at the All Star break, and kind of just talk about whatever comes to mind and observations and what we think is going to happen down the stretch and all that shit. So, without further ado, who do you think gets on the hot seat first, Greg? Pat or Bob? No, that's what they probably should do.
What
Pat and Bob.
hot seat on what do you mean? Like getting fired? I think that both of them have been quote unquote.
No, which one do you? No, which one do you want to talk about first?
Oh, oh. Um, the Fitzgerald one seems pretty cut and dry. I think the university probably dropped the ball and put in a punishment before they really did their due diligence on how big the scope was on this hazing thing because they had teammates coming forward and saying there was no way he didn't know about it, and so I think they just backtracked and just back, and just did the only thing they could do. They just fired him, and
Mm-hmm.
now the Huggins thing, it's starting to turn into a little bit stranger because all right, he had the DUI. Well, first off, he had the anti-gay slur on a podcast or a talk show.
Radio.
And then a
Yeah.
month later, he gets like pulled for DUI. And I'm not just talking about barely over. It was like the reports was he didn't know where he was, he didn't know what he was doing, and then
I love the police report saying that he couldn't quite accurately identify what city he was in, but he did reference Columbus, Ohio several times. That was my favorite line from the
but
police
I
report.
guess they were giving him a half a point for like at least naming a legitimate city.
Yeah,
It may
hey,
not have been the one he
that
was
is a
in,
town
but at
saying
least
this.
it was an actual city that is.
Columbus, Columbus. I love it. Yeah, but what city are you in now? Man, I love.
That's and
He was pulled over to the side of the road with his door ajar,
mm,
incoherent, and a shredded tire, and empty beer cans everywhere. That's like that's like almost out of a movie, like a comedy movie almost.
that's yeah.
You
I
expect
mean,
Chris Farley to be behind the wheel.
or John Belushi or
Oh, he's smart.
Wanda.
Yeah, yeah.
But
John Big
then,
Moynihan.
after that, there's a letter that got sent to the president saying that I resign. And so now, a few weeks later, he's come back and said, "Wait a minute, that didn't come from me. That came from my wife. That was never. That is not me. That's saying I'm not going to resign. I want my job back." And so the university has already moved on and picked his assistant coach as on an interim basis, and now it's getting ready to be. There'll be some legal battles, but I think ultimately West Virginia just give
I
him
wonder if like
money to shut up and go away.
I wonder if he's going to hire Jackie Moon as his defense attorney. I don't know if you watch Seinfeld or not, but this is like a
Oh
complete
yes,
Costanza move.
yes, yeah.
It is. when he tells his boss off one night, like at an event, he hates his job and his boss because they like make fun of him and pick on him at work, and then George like decides he wants to quit, and he does it at this some big event for work, like a dinner or something, and just tells his boss off, and then he regrets it, and then so he decides that the next day he just like goes back into work and act like it was a joke and like just blow it off. He
Just
was
blow
just joking around. Yeah, and it's something that what's his name, Larry David actually did like on Saturday night when he was a writer on Saturday Night Live. So it was something that happened to him in real life. He actually quit and then just showed back up at work the next day. But they kept him on, which was funny.
yeah.
So it actually worked for him. It didn't work out so well with George. So the moment I heard this, the first thing I thought of was like, he's pulling a Costanza.
Yes. But I don't know. He was on thin ice anyway, even without all the off the court stuff. I mean, he hasn't his record hasn't been that well, that good. He's you know getting old, and I, I think he was maybe on a
Well,
1 year contract anyway. And more than likely, what would have happened if, let's just say, if West Virginia, the basketball team, hadn't made the tournament this coming up year, he probably would have been replaced anyway. So I think he's looking. I think he's still. I think he's still got like $40 million left on his contract because he signed like a 5 or 10 year deal a couple of years ago, and I think he's
yeah,
just looking to squeeze every last penny he can before he goes away.
I don't know. I think there might be a little bit of like dementia or like mental issues with him at this point. I mean, he sounds flat out crazy.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I mean, I know he's a good basketball coach, and I mean, any coach that can stay at a program for as long as he did and win a lot as many games as he did, that I mean, that's a pretty big deal. But I mean, he did it in the Big 12, you know. And if you look at his record in the tournament, I mean, it tells you everything. I mean, granted, over the course of his career, I think he made the Final Four two times, but you know, and he made the tournament a lot. But most of his teams lost like in the first or second round every year. I mean, West Virginia is always an early exit. I mean, so I
well,
don't
the
know.
the,
I
the
mean, I
majority.
know you don't measure greatness on, but he never won a title,
No,
never really got close to winning one. And I mean, most of his teams were just average to slightly above average, in my opinion. I mean, to do that consistently, that's NC State. But, to say that the Marquette is a great career, um, I don't know if that's what
well,
it is.
the majority of his success came at Cincinnati before he got to West
That's
Virginia.
true.
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but I know he made one Final Four at least at Cincinnati, and he had that program humming when he was there, and then he got let go there, and then went back to his alma mater, and that pretty much has been mediocre the whole time he's been there. I mean, good competitive teams, don't get me wrong, but you don't stay 10 years and be mediocre. They
Yeah.
if he wasn't an alum from West Virginia, I think they would have let him go after a long time ago, actually. So, but I
I
think
know.
this is his
Cause
way of trying to get money and then get the rest of his contract paid out, and he'll just go away.
yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, it'll somewhere in the middle of what both the guys want without him still being the coach there is what
Yeah.
will happen there. Yeah, yeah, but he ain't coming back to coach anymore. I don't think anywhere.
No,
But one more funny thing I was thinking about it now is the fact that he lost his job for getting a DUI from Cincinnati.
yeah,
Cincinnati. Can you imagine now a coach getting from Cincinnati for a DUI? I don't know where I'm going with that. That just struck me funny. I wanted to real quick before we get on to baseball. Um, I wanted to talk about the Pat Fitzgerald thing. Um, a little bit because, like you said, I think it's a cut and dry situation. I mean, for what transpired there, um, the right circumstance came from. I mean, he was fired. He's no longer the coach. That's fine and good. My biggest problem with, I mean, from following the story and just from the little that I follow news and current events and stuff, but these days anyway, um, how much like fandom went into, trying to hide this. I don't know if you know this or not, but Northwestern has like one of the largest like sports media programs. They're kind of like UNC Chapel Hill in that regard, where like, a large majority of people in sports media went to Northwestern or UNC Chapel Hill. I mean, that's just the way it is. And, there was talk, you know, banter about that, like, these Northwestern alums have known about these stories for years, and somebody would ask them about it. It's like, yeah, I know what's going on, but I love Northwestern, and I'm just not saying anything. So, you know, this is something that had been, obviously widely known going on for decades. Fitzgerald came into a culture of hazing probably about a decade ago, and he came in the guy to clean all that shit up. And then everybody knows that it's still going on. It's still being reported. Kids' lives are still being ruined. To say and this is the guy that comes in to clean it all up, and then the university's reaction of, let's see if we can just slap him on the wrist and get away with it, or if there'll be this like huge outcry. And so then the huge outcry comes, oh, we didn't know all this shit. Oh, okay, yeah, we're firing him. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the appropriate thing to do. All
Upon
this
review of the
facade,
of
yeah.
the upon
And
review
then
of
now,
the circumstances.
yeah, and now that he's fired, now everybody's, oh, that son of a bitch. And just the game of it all, man. It just irritates me. But I mean that's where we are. I mean, win at all costs. I mean, throw millions of dollars at kids 17, 18 years old. That doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all about kids making money off their likeness, and sports are dangerous, and you get hurt, and that's the end of it. So make it while you can. I get it, but so much of sports is just being ruined by slicing up the pie. And I mean, people just, I'm, s- I mean, college was kind of like my refuge from all that shit, you know, and it just, in college and even high school sports to a certain degree, it's just like, just get back to like, just play the game. Let me enjoy some kids, enjoy playing just the game just for the game. But you're not going to be able to see that anymore. I mean, there's always going to be gamers, but, you know, I don't know.
Well, there's just so much
It's
money
ridiculous.
in the last 30, 40,
Hmm.
30, 40 years, going back to the 80s. The revenue stream from college sports and these universities depend on that to line the
Oh yeah.
pockets, to build the buildings, to do this, and on top of taxpayers and blah, what they get from the federal government. That these sports programs, especially the big one, football, there's so much revenue that these universities get. I mean, even the small, loser programs, as long as you're in a mid, a mid major or even a Power Five conference, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year pour into these universities, and at times they don't. Nothing stops the money train. They're going to try their best
Mm-mm.
not to stop the money train. I mean, we look at Northwestern. Northwestern is, we're not talking about Northwestern competing for national championships in anything, but they're in, they're in the Big Ten, and so that revenue stream is huge. And
Oh yeah.
especially in a
You they will at least want to be competitive.
well, yeah, but even if you're not competitive, the millions and millions of dollars just from the conference itself, because the TV rights, every school gets a piece of that, and so far as like you know donors and alumni that contribute, and I don't know. It just I think at times the ads and the presidents, they try to sweep it underneath the rug or get past it. Maybe not at times sweep it under the rug, but they want to get past it as quickly as possible, and they can do that because of the short attention span of of our society. I mean, I guarantee you, a month from now, unless this thing drags out, if they do a cut and dry, yeah, they may have some legal tussle over whether it was for cause or how much to buy out his contract for. But if they can get that done relatively quickly, a month from now, you won't even hear about it.
Hmm.
It won't even be reported.
You know, one thing I am liking about this NIL, or NIL, name, image, likeness, for those that don't know, um, college players, amateur athletes are able to stay NCAA eligible, but still getting, um, you know, deals. They can make money off of their image and likeness, so they can do commercials and basically and get paid for it, or they can get paid for doing appearances and things like that. So really cool. Now, one of the things is just getting absolutely absurd in college sports, especially where these, they couldn't legally, although there were all these backdoor channels where they were sliding cash to kids constantly. Um, they really couldn't in public give these kids that were playing these sports and putting their life on the line for these universities. They couldn't pay them directly anything other than the college education, room and board. Um, but now, they can. So what they tried to do to make up for it, since they had all this money pouring in, they kept building these mega locker rooms and these posh dorms just for the football team.
Luxury
Just
suites and
hundreds of millions. Yeah, hundreds of, like, valet service for, like, to take the players to their classes and things like. I mean, I've heard all kinds of ridiculous things. I mean, really, like little carts that would take the football players, like little vans and stuff, through campus and drop them off and be there to pick them up when they got out. And I
uh,
mean, all kinds of shit like that. Just hundreds of millions of dollars on shit like that. And so, I mean, and they would build it, and then 20 years later, they're like, oh, it's outdated. We need a newer, bigger, and better one, and then tear it down and build another one to it or whatever. Now, hopefully, a good portion of that money is going to be going to where it needs to go to, and that's the kids themselves. You know what I mean? Not to say that you don't need to have a good locker room too, but you don't. It's not going to be a space race for locker rooms, and um, you understand what I'm trying to say.
well, it the goal is to always attract the best prospect, attract the best players, because the thing
Hmm.
about it's a and you kind of touched on it, it's like an arms race. It's okay. You got one school who's building state of the art stadium, locker rooms, everything, and they start attracting the top talent, and then it's keeping up with the Joneses. Now the other schools are having to do the same thing. You know, I mean, it's no secret. College football funds pretty much every other sport that a university has. I mean, it's the money making machine.
Hmm.
I mean, you don't have a rugby team, you don't have a swim team without the football team doing well, or at least pulling in money, because that
Well,
a little bit of that
basketball
money gets
too.
spread around. But I mean, I don't know where it's going to end. I don't. It's becoming more and more minor
That's the
league.
fun thing to watch, is to see how ridiculous it's going to get.
Oh, who
That's what's
knows?
going to be the fun thing to watch.
And that's
All right,
like we
man.
don't even
Look,
know the
let's get
half of
into.
it. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, I know. I know. Let's get into some baseball real quick, man. Any surprises for you so far? That we're here at the All-Star break.
Uh,
By the time this show airs this Saturday night or Sunday morning, whatever, um, they'll already be back to playing live ball again. But any surprises to you? Any teams stand out to you?
Disappointment in not necessarily the Mets because they're losers anyway, no matter how much money they spend. But what surprises me is how poorly the Padres are doing, especially with that top heavy.
Yeah,
They've
that
got good
bothers me.
pitching. They got a top heavy lineup, but I mean they shelled out some cash too. And I'm sorry, Juan Soto is not looking that great. I mean, I don't keep up on it on a daily basis, but as a casual fan, he should be doing a whole lot more than what he's been doing. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
I
But
think all Southern California sports teams are cursed to some degree because I've always had like a sentimental spot myself for the Padres, just if nothing else, as the lovable losers. But then I love Tony Gwynn when he played with the Padres. Love watching him play. And man, that's hard to believe he's already passed too. But
yeah,
Steve Garvey was probably the last team that they were like an actual contender. You know what I mean? It's just weird.
yeah. And Mr. Hunter, our producer, may be able to. Um, I think he's the only one that has a 300 career batting average against Greg Maddux, Tony Gwynn. But I want to say that's true, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, he's looking at one thing I wanted to mention about the Mets, who, well, yeah, I think you can tell I'm a Braves fan, but um,
No.
the Mets are like our arch rival. So the fact that they don't do well never bothers me. But I heard for what the Mets are paying Verlander and what's the other guy? Scherzer.
Scherzer?
Scherzer. Yeah, there's those two salaries and the shit performance that they're putting out this year. Their salary is more than the entire Tampa Bay Devil Rays payroll.
That tickles me. That does. I
I know
mean,
that makes me so happy.
now the AL East is going to be just one big battle royale because I mean it is not out of the realm of possibility for all of the AL East to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me one bit to see the Yankees and the Red Sox at the bottom of the NL East. I mean AL East. My apologies.
Me too. Wow.
Wow. Wow. Well, Hunter just came back with the Tony Gwynn stats, and he hit actually over 400 against Maddox. So 415 was his average. Oh, that's amazing. So you were correct, and then some. You were modestly correct, as they say.
Now that was all right. Now you and I have had talks about Mr. Otani is in his contract year,
Hmm.
and I rib you about what the Braves should do. I think, and I mean this half jokingly because I know it's never going to happen. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great if Otani came to the Braves?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what it is for my, love for Acuna so much, but I mean, he's still so young, and I mean, a guy like that can play forever. And I mean, I mean, Otani could just be a flash in the pan. I don't know. I don't think that he is,
For the last
but I
six
don't know. I just
years?
feel more
For the last
confident.
6 years?
I just feel more. I just feel more confident about Acuna being still good at 35 years old than I do Otani. And I
Well,
mean,
that
and then from what you're going to have to pay more than what you're paying
oh,
Acuna,
yeah.
it's not even worth considering, in my
It's
opinion.
and
It's
that's
not
how
even worth.
Braves
It's not even
operate
on the
anyway.
table.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
operate
And I
that
mean,
way.
I know you have a disdain. I mean, aside from myself, but I could be speaking out of turn here, but I know you have a disdain for like the typical Braves fan, which I'm not. And I mean, there was nothing more that you would love to just see the Braves just bury themselves in bad contracts.
Well,
In other
my
words, be the
my my
Mets.
disdain. My disdain for the Braves came at a young age when I was first starting to watch sports and baseball and football. Everybody around me, friends, everybody, and this was like maybe mid 80s, early to mid 80s. All I ever heard was how bad they sucked. Oh, the Braves suck. Oh, God, they suck. They suck. They suck. Then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, Smoltz, Maddox, and Glavine come in, Justice and McGriff come in, they start winning, and then everybody starts, oh yeah, woo, Braves, Braves. I'm like, you fair weather fucks. No,
Hmm.
I'm not going to pull. No, the hell with that. No, I mean, and then that just turned me off to the Braves completely. You know, I'm just now
Well,
starting to warm back up to them a little bit. I like this team. I like the way they play. I like when Freddie Freeman was there, I like Austin Riley and Swanson, and they the Braves seem to do
Watson's a
things the
Cub
right
now.
way. They build from
Yeah.
within this farm system. They don't go chasing superstars. They don't throw a lot of money at people, but they still win. And for you could say for like the last 10, 15 years, they've been competitive at least.
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've been following the Blue Jays because I'm a Blue Jays fan, de facto Blue Jays fan. I mean, I pull for them just because you did, but I don't know if you saw
Yes.
who won the home run derby. I'm saying that was so fun. I
Oh,
mean, I
I'm
was
glad.
pulling for. I just
Glad,
wanted to
glad.
see the father son. Yeah,
That was cool.
he looked. I know he hadn't been having that great of a season on the field, but I mean,
No.
he can just go off at any time, man. And his power is still there. I mean, he's always got you that. But I'm really. I mean, the Rays have kind of come back to earth. I mean, the Braves surpassed them, and as far as being the best winning percentage in MLB now. But I mean, the Rays and the Braves are pretty equal, I think, talent wise. I mean, and the thing about the Braves, which is kind of crazy, is I mean, two of their starting pitchers haven't come back from injury yet. We got Max Fried, the ace, is coming back probably in another week or two, and then Kyle Wright, a guy who won 20 games last year, is coming back in August. So I mean, you're going to have the stockpile of starting pitchers. I mean, our fifth, one of our guys is, wasn't supposed to be in the starting five rotation. He's in the All Star game, Bryce Elder. So another team like that, the Rangers are shockingly in first place. Over the Astros too, and
But the
their
Astros have
aces,
had some injuries, I
Degrom.
think.
Yeah, but DeGrom isn't playing right now, and there's another guy for the
He's
Rangers. I
done.
can't remember his name. Oh, he's done for the year.
He had Tommy John surgery again, so he's done. He's done for the
Oh,
year.
okay,
Yeah,
he's done for the year and next year then probably.
I think
And
his
then I mean,
career
and
is done.
why even having? I mean, we talk about this so many times, but I mean, why does the American League Central even exist?
And so, well, we got to put
I
somebody
mean, you've
in.
got the Guardians. I mean, I'm just going to let you know here. I mean, you've got the Guardians, in a commanding half game lead over the Twins with a 45 and 45 record. There's your first place team. And then you've got the White Sox, who they've still got a shot. They're only 8 games out. So if they get hot, they might catch the Guardians. But,
But
they're
and don't forget
38
about
and
Detroit. Detroit's
54.
actually only 5.5.
Yep, you're right. Yep. They're only 11 games under 500, so that should be some exciting playoff baseball coming from that division. I mean, I like seeing the Mariners. I don't know why. I guess it's just from the love of King Griffey Jr., but just seeing kind of a revitalization in that organization a little bit. They seem like an up and coming team that's going to be one to be, you know, and the
Griffey Jr.
Orioles
had the
too. I mean,
sweetest
I know
swing
you're
I've ever
kind of,
saw.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean, I've never the sweetest swing I have ever seen in a baseball player was from Griffey Jr. He just it looked like he was swinging a golf club, practicing on a tee somewhere. It just looked so effortless. And his bat speed was so
Yeah.
incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
it
And
just he didn't even try. He wasn't even trying, and his bat speed and his swing was so sweet, and I was just it looked like
it looked like, I think what they used, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It looked like it was in slow motion, even though it wasn't.
yeah.
It was so sweet and smooth. Hmm.
Mm. Mm.
Hank Aaron's was kind of like that. His swing was a lot like Hank's. It really
Oh,
was now I think about it.
and I know this is a little bit late, and we may have already had an episode, but I personally want to wish you and everybody out there a belated happy Bobby Bonilla Day. And
Yeah.
hopefully you will think about, you know, the Mets and their stupidity. That just goes beyond what I mean.
Way to pile on, Greg, to all the Mets fans there.
Should we explain what Bobby Bonilla Day is?
No, I think anybody that would care knows what it is, and it's worth the reference.
Yeah, 20,
I don't think it's worth mentioning, even though it's not worth the airtime. Have you seen the
$1.1 million every year until
Yeah,
2035.
yeah,
Go
and he
ahead.
hasn't played a baseball game since when? 1989.
2000, early 2000s.
I'm just being facetious. And still, yeah, that's the way you do it. To, so they got to do that for 12 more years still.
Yeah.
Holy cow! That's funding. That's generational money there.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, 34 years of paying somebody $1 million to do nothing.
And you know what? God bless him. I
I
don't
wish I
think the
could. Well,
man.
how could I never find that job?
I mean, for him and his agent to come up with that, God bless him.
Hmm.
I mean that he. I mean
The
he's
Mets, if someone in the Mets organization would be happening to listen to this podcast, I suck at baseball. I mean, I'm terrible at it. So if you want to pay me $1 million a year not to play for your team, I'm your guy. I'm just throwing it out there. I'll quit show business. I'll walk away from everything to come not play baseball for the New York Mets. And I'll do it for 950,000 a year. How
hey,
about that?
that's a bargain.
Yeah, it's a bargain. I'm draw people to the ballpark not to see me play.
But I will give the Mets this. The new owner, they're actually like embracing it. They actually do a little thing every July 1st at the ballpark.
Hmm.
They're turning lemons into lemonade. Is basically what they're doing, and trying to generate revenue and interest.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, man. I know I'm not jumping on the bandwagon as much as everybody else, but in the National League, the team right now that scares me the most are the Reds. That's a scrappy little team. They got some great talent, and they're cocky and confident as hell. I mean, the Braves won a recent series with them 2-3, but I mean, every game was tooth and nail right down to the end. I mean, they fought hard. They don't give up. They got good pitching. That lineup of theirs is hot. I mean, the ball just bounces off everybody's back.
Well, that's what happened. I mean, when you Dela Cruz, I mean, it just
Hmm.
took one
Oh yeah.
player who came in and started red hot and continued to be red hot, and it was infectious. I mean, the whole clubhouse. I mean, you know, before him, your best hitter was what, Votto,
Yeah.
and then even he has kind of picked it up some, and it just
There's another
Cincinnati
kid
enjoy
there
him.
that tore the Braves up. I think is McCann or something like that, or McKitt or something like that. That kid, I hated him by the end of the series, but now that a few days have passed, I'm like, that's a good young kid right there. 100, can you look that up? Maybe. I'm just curious to know the Cincinnati one. Thanks, man. Well,
Now,
look,
now
let's just go.
Cincinnati. I will say Cincinnati enjoy him now because in about 2 or 3 years, somebody's going to back up a dump truck full of money, and he's going to
Oh
leave.
yeah,
He's not going to stay long. He's not going to be a
he'll be a
lifelong Red.
Padre or a Met.
Yeah,
No, wait a minute, or Yankee.
he's going
Hey,
to be a
look,
Yankee.
McLean. That's it. Matt McLean, shortstop for the Reds. He's a kid. I like watching the Reds play. They're a fun baseball team.
Mm.
Well, while we're in it, let's do some predictions here real quick, and let's see who do you think is going to win the NL Central. I'm going to go with the Reds. I don't think anybody else got anything for them.
Yeah, I'll say Reds as well. Another surprise for me this year has been how bad the Cardinals have been. I mean,
Oh
they're.
yeah,
I mean, Molina leaving or Molina like retiring, it must have hurt more than anybody thought because they're like absolutely horrendous right now. But yeah, I
I
would.
mean
I'll stick with the Reds because I don't really see Milwaukee.
the Cardinals just don't have enough time. I mean they're 12 games
Yeah,
almost back.
they're done. The only one I think could give the Reds a push or would be the Brewers, and I see Cincinnati winning by maybe 3 or 4 games when it's
Yeah,
all said and done.
yeah. Well, in the NL East, I'm gonna make a bold prediction and say that the Mets are gonna pull it together and just go on a mad scramble here and overcome the 18 and a half game deficit that they have now. And I'm sorry, I just had to
Put your bet.
do
Put your bet in now.
that.
Hey, Hunter, check the odds. Check the odds of the right now the New York Mets winning the NL East.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Braves.
I'm gonna say Braves by double digits.
Almost there now. All right, what about the National League West? I mean, that's an interesting one because the
Plus 15,000 to win the NL East. So what
I'd
is
take it, guy.
so if you put $100 down on the New York Mets today, you would win.
15,000.
Yeah,
Oh, 150,000.
I don't have my thing in front of
I
me.
don't know how that works.
How
Yeah, that's
much?
right.
Yeah, 16,000.
That's not 15,000 plus 100. So 15,100 is what you get, according to Hunter. Yep. I don't know. I mean, I don't see any way. I mean, I like the Diamondbacks and I like the way they built that team and put it together. And then, they've been there for a while, but I mean, the Dodgers just have
Yeah,
way too much talent.
yeah,
And I think they'll overcome and they'll probably run away with it by 5 or 6 games.
yeah.
That's my opinion.
I think the bigger question in the NL West will be whether or not the Padres make the playoffs because
How
they got
far
some
they
work
at?
to do.
Yeah, they got a lot. And they got a lot of teams to contend with just even to get in as a wild card team. But there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of talent still on the Cardinals team, too. The crazy thing about the Cardinals, as talented as that team is, I mean, especially on the offensive side of the ball,
Yeah.
I mean, they've only won 13 more games than the Oakland Athletics. That's crazy.
Now, and also in the NL West, uh, people overlook them just about every year, but the Giants,
Giants.
the
Yeah, they're only two
Giants
and a
are
half
just
games out.
yeah, the Giants are just hanging around. They, and they'll hang around and they'll be competitive enough that if the Dodgers need to win the series against them, or if the Diamondbacks need to win the series against them, the Giants will be the one to spoil somebody's playoff hopes in the NL
Hmm.
West. I guarantee it.
Well, I'm going to go out a limb here in the Central and the American League Central, and I'm going to pick the Tigers.
Yeah,
Why
I.
not?
Why not? Exactly. I mean, Detroit is not a good team, but they're playing above their expectations right now. They're playing above their pay grade, and they're going to give a push to either the Twins or the Guardians. I'm going to say, as much as I would like to see Detroit win, I'm actually going to say the Twins somehow, some
Probably.
way, find a way. It may come down to the last series of the year. It'll be like they'll win by like a half game, two
Well,
games
Cleveland
max.
and Minnesota, if they've got a legit shot to win the division. I mean, they'll spend some money and improve their team. I don't know if the Tigers will. I mean, even though the Tigers are only um, a few um, games out, I mean, I don't think the Tigers would spend a lot of money.
Well, they're spending all their money on Cabrera and that
Hmm.
big fat long contract that Now, granted, I give Mickey props and Detroit props for honoring the deal, but that deal that Cabrera got, what was it, 10 years ago or something? It's killing the Tigers today, and they're not going to be able to move forward and be able to spend in the free market like they could until they get rid of him, until he
Yeah,
retires, which is after this year. And I'm not a Cabrera hater. I mean, I love him as a player. I just hate these big fat contracts that pretty much handcuff a team, especially if you're not a big market team like LA or New York
or Atlanta.
or Atlanta. Yeah. But I mean, Detroit, they they can't go out and spend money on any type of prospects or free agents because they're saddled with Mickey, this big contract from Cabrera, and until they get rid of that, I I look next year, the next 2 3 years, I think they'll be vying for a division title.
Probably. Yeah. Hey, look. Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Hunter just pointed out that yeah, Hunter just informed us that the Tigers are plus 2,800 to win the AL Central. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. Moving on to the American League East. We got a very interesting. I mean, obviously, every team's got a legit shot to win that, but I mean, I really honestly think it's going to come down to the top three teams: the Jays, the Orioles, and the Rays.
the Jays will not
Um,
make it. The
I
Jays will not make it. They
You
they
never
won't.
know, man. A team get hot, they bring in some pitching and solidify the bullpen. Maybe. I mean, you never know.
We've
I
been
mean,
saying
there's
that
some
for 10
guys
years,
that
and
typically.
they haven't had a really legit ace since what? Since Clemens, maybe? Since a really, you know, I, their bullpen. I
I
get
don't know.
scared every time their bullpen. They blow so many stuff, and their offense is not consistent enough to keep up with anybody in the AL East. Right now, I think it's going to be between Tampa and Baltimore, and
Hmm. I'd
for
like
the
to see Baltimore just
I
because. Yeah,
kind of do too. I mean, as hot as the Rays started out this year, there's got to be some regression, and I think I think it'll come down to the last week. I think Baltimore overtakes them. I think maybe by 1 or 2 games. So I'm gonna pick the Orioles on that one, but it's gonna be close. But
yeah. I don't know.
Tampa will
Yeah,
get
it's
into
gonna
the
be nice.
playoffs though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Orioles. I just love their uniforms. I love Camden Yards. I think it's a beautiful stadium. That's a template for pretty much what everybody does now with the new baseball stadiums. But I mean, the Devil Rays are the parent franchise for a local Durham Bulls now. So, you got to have a little sentiment for that too. So I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be so close, but I have a gut feeling the Orioles are going to take it too. And then in the West, I mean, until somebody knocks off the Astros, you don't pick them.
Yeah, once everybody gets healthy, um, I think
Mm-hmm.
I think Altuve is out. Yeah, I think Houston will probably overtake Texas and win by about 5 games. But there again, Texas
Mm-hmm.
could still get into the playoffs. I mean, you look at the standings, especially in the wild card. There's about 9 teams that could,
Yeah.
that could make it. That are within 5 games of each other.
And they're all in two of the divisions.
Yeah,
Nobody from the AL Central was in that conversation.
no.
That's the greatest thing. Well,
Which is
look,
which is
man,
another
I
reason
really
why.
appreciate it.
Which is another reason why I don't think the Jays are going to make it. I think they'll finish third or fourth in the AL East. I think there's too many other teams in the AL East and the AL West that can give them a hard time or push them. I mean, we're talking, even even if the Rangers don't win the division, they could make the playoffs. Seattle could make the playoffs. The Yankees, if they get Judge back, can easily make the playoffs.
Hmm.
There's just too many teams that they'll have to fight over. Right now, I think they've got the last playoff spot, but until the pitching gets better, especially in the bullpen, I don't know.
Well, that's what trade season's for. It'll be fun to
That's
go
it.
through that and see what happens and who
I,
um,
I will tell you a
foregoes
fun
their
fact I
future
learned a week or
to.
two ago. Let me tell you a fun fact
Oh,
I
okay.
learned a couple of weeks ago. I found out that you remember Hermaine when he threw the no hitter, right, for the Yankees a couple of weeks
Hmm.
back before the All Star break. All right,
Hmm.
I had somebody who came to me with some information that there's only 3 Yankee pitchers that have pitched. Was it a perfect? Yeah, it was a perfect game. Only 3 Yankee pitchers that have pitched a perfect game, and each of those 3
Hmm.
years, the Yankees went on to win the World Series. So what
Yeah,
did
it ain't
Greg
gonna
do?
happen this year.
Greg
Did you bet
Greg
on the
Greg put
Yankees?
$5 down on the Yankees winning the World Series this year
Why
at
not?
plus
How much would you
1,800
win
odds.
from when you? What? How much? 1,800?
No, $5 on plus 18 odds. I think it's like
Oh, okay.
95. Yeah, but that was I had
That's
never
big
known
money
that.
there.
So for me, it is.
All right, man. Oh, I wanted to tell you. I didn't tell you what my
Oh, I'm sorry.
trip to LA. Did
I
I tell you
interrupted
my
because that
story?
just came to mind.
No. Did I tell you like the cool thing about my trip to LA? We went to a Dodgers game.
Uh huh.
I don't know if remember if I
No.
told you or not, but they were playing the Phillies when we were there, and so I thought it was really cool because I get to see former Brave Freddie Freeman, and then obviously Trey Turner, former state standout, NC State, um, and the only hit I think, or it was the only run that the Phillies scored the whole night was a crush shot by Trey Turner, a solo home run to dead center field. And we got there and it was like we went in May, and it was so cold that night. The only like long sleeve hoodie type thing I had was like a Braves of Atlanta Braves of all that course, so I had to wear that to the game. And so one guy gave me a hard time. He's like, "You're at the wrong game, buddy." And I was like,
Oh,
I'm just here to check out Freddie. Check on Freddie is what I said. I'm just here to check on Freddie. So I thought that was pretty funny. Dodger Stadium is neat, man. It's like built into the side of a mountain. I mean, I ain't even joking. The stadium is like 4 levels into the side of a mountain and just overlooking canyons. It's freaking beautiful, dude. If you ever get the chance, I highly recommend it.
now did you get a hot dog there? How did they do the hot dogs?
I didn't get a hot dog. I
You
don't
didn't get a
think I
hot
got
dog?
anything to eat there.
What?
I think I got
You
some
went, you went to a
peanuts. I
baseball
got some
game and you didn't get
peanuts.
a hot dog. You didn't
Just
get a
beer
hot
and
dog at this
peanuts.
one. Just peanuts.
Mm-mm.
You didn't get
Yep.
anything.
I'm pretty. No. I got some
You,
mustard.
so, what did you get? Like packs of mustard and
I
take
was
me
trying
out
to
to the
like
ball.
reference Miller's Crossing. Hey, just a hot dog and mustard. Yeah, dang, my kids are my kids
Uh,
as smart as a whip. Give him a penny, boys.
I ain't got
That's
a
a
penny,
penny you
boy.
owe 'em. All right, we're
Oh,
just you ready to wrap it up, man?
whenever you are, my friend.
Let's wrap it
I,
up.
I could talk all night.
Well, that's why we have next week's episode. So,
Uh,
um, I'm sorry, that was
no,
an
we
asshole,
should
right?
maybe do that. Maybe like New Year's Eve or something, or like
Hmm.
on a and just do a 24-hour marathon.
There you go. The best of, dude. We'll do a. We'll find like a cause that nobody has sponsored yet, and we'll have a marathon on New Year's Eve for that cause. Like it would have to be like something random, like toenail fungus or something like that, because there's nobody that stands up against toenail fungus
Stand up for toenail.
except for that. That'll be our New Year's Eve thing. All right, dude. Look, I want to thank everybody for watching and listening.
But not
We've
the
noticed a
list.
little bit of uptick in viewership, and we appreciate that. I noticed that we were almost up to 20 views on just our announcement show. So, um, we thank you. Keep sharing it if you like it, and like us yourself. Leave us a comment. Be sure to check out all the other shows on the Q crew, and that's the letter Q, the one that's before R. I had to think about
No,
that.
it's the one
And
after
then
B.
crew, CREW, Q crew.
R B.
There's Finding New Films with our producer, Hunter Harris, is the host of that show. And then there's his other show, Self Tapes. There's actually a sports podcast that's coming on sometime, possibly in the future too. That's still kind of on the down low though. And then there's
Not
the
anymore because you
basement
just announced it.
tapes. Yeah, a general topics comedy podcast that Hunter started with Trevor. So, those two together are always hilarious. I watched the first episode or listened to it some and watched some this week earlier, and they got some chemistry. I think they've got a really good thing going on there. So, I'm out, man. I'm tired. I don't have anything else to say. Oh, I'm just got a reminder from Hunter to follow us on Instagram. That's it. Greg and Jeff give the hi hat. Oh, that's right. We've got an Instagram page. Oh, I'm gonna create a face bag. I'm gonna create a face bag. I'm gonna create a face
Jeff,
bag,
Jeff,
and then I'm
what's
gonna put
exact?
my
What's
face
in
in
that
it.
tea? What you've been
And
drinking all night? What's in that tea?
oh, Jack Daniels. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll be better next time. I promise.
I can't make that promise. But good night, everybody.